In this video, we'll solve questions 32 to 35 of IELTS Reading Academic Test 1 from Cambridge Book 17. In case you missed it, we have already solved reading passages 1 and 2 and a few questions from passage 3. You can find the links to these in the description below. The question type of questions 32 to 35 is yes, no, not given. The questions of yes, no, not given are in the same order as the information in the text. So there is no need to read all the questions first. We can read the first question first and locate its answer. The answer to the second question will be after that, and so on. But I do glance at all the questions to see if there is anything in the questions which can help me find out the tentative location of these answers. The word Pepys is capitalized and is mentioned in 2 questions. I look for this in the passage. The name Charles, however, cannot help us locate the answer because the whole passage is about Charles, so it is mentioned throughout the passage. Pepys is mentioned only in the second paragraph. Let's read the 32nd question now. Charles chose Pepys for the task because he considered him to be trustworthy. There are 2 things I need to confirm. Did Charles choose Pepys? And if he did he choose him because he thought Pepys was trustworthy? Trustworthy means someone who is honest or truthful and can therefore be trusted. The key information from the question is Charles, Pepys, chose, and trustworthy. Let's start reading the second paragraph. When reading the passage, to quickly understand what is being said, read the sentence in chunks. That is 4 to 5 words together which make a meaningful phrase. Focus on phrases which are relevant to the question. On your screen, the parts or chunks of the sentence which are relevant to the question are in bold. Let's start reading from the passage now. Charles II requested a meeting with Pepys. His intention, to commit his story to paper, ensure was never forgotten. Over 2 to 3 hours sittings, personal recollections. This is about how King Charles told details to Pepys. The first 2 sentences of the second paragraph are about King Charles meeting Pepys. There is no mention of why Pepys was chosen for this. It is not even mentioned if King Charles himself chose Pepys for this job or somebody else chose him. The answer to the 32nd question, therefore, is not given. What could be confusing when looking for this answer is that it is given that Charles requested Pepys to write his story. But why did he do so is not mentioned at all. The reason could be trustworthiness, or that Pepys was a great writer, or something else altogether. Let's understand this phrase, commit his story to paper, before moving on. One of the meanings of commit is to transfer something to safely keep it or preserve it. Commit a story to paper is to write a story on paper so that it is saved or so that it won't be forgotten. Moving on to the 33rd question. Charles' personal recollection of the escape lacked sufficient detail. Personal recollection means how a person remembers or talks about an experience. Escape means to run away from some place. While doing questions 27 to 31, I've already gone through the first paragraph. The first paragraph contains details about how King Charles lost a battle and then he escaped to or fled to France. Lack means shortage. The question means that when King Charles told about his experience of escape, he did not give proper details. Let's continue reading the second paragraph. Over 2-3 hour sittings, the king related in great detail his personal recollections, 6 weeks as fugitive. Fugitive means a person who has escaped. There was no lack or shortage of details. According to this passage, the personal recollections contained great details. The answer to the 33rd question is no. Moving on to the 34th question. Charles indicated to Pepys that he had planned his escape before the battle. Indicated means told indirectly or mentioned. What we need to find is if Charles said to Pepys that he had planned the escape before the battle. This is where we had found the answer to the 33rd question in the passage. Let's continue reading. As the king and secretary settled down, Charles commenced, after the battle was lost, beyond hope of recovery, I began to think of the best way of saving myself. The way King Charles saved himself was by escaping, but this sentence tells us that he started or began thinking about it when he had lost the battle. The question says that he had planned this before the battle, which is wrong. So the answer to the 34th question is no. Moving on to the 35th question. The inclusion of Charles' account is a positive aspect of the book. Account means the report or description of an experience. Inclusion of Charles' account means that what Charles said was in the book or was part of the book. What the question means is that what Charles said was included in the book, and this was a good thing about the book. The answer to the 34th question was at the end of the second paragraph. Let's start reading from the third paragraph. One of the joys of Spencer's book, a result not least of its use of Charles II's own narrative, as well as those of his supporters. Not least is a phrase that means in particular or notably or especially. One of the joys means one of the positives. Narrative means account. So what this sentence in the passage is saying is that one particular or notable, positive or good thing about the book is that it has or it includes Charles II's narrative or account. The answer to the 35th question, therefore, is yes. When solving yes, no, not given questions, first figure out the tentative location of the answer in the passage. Then read those couple of sentences very carefully. We've already discussed some of the other questions from this passage in other videos. In the forthcoming videos, the rest of them will be discussed. Notice the locations of the answers to the 4 questions, question number 32 to 35, in the passage. And these are the locations of the answers of the rest of the questions in the same passage. More often than not, there are many parts of the passage that you don't need to read at all. When looking for answers in IELTS reading, you need to know the question types and their features. This helps you in locating the answer. This may also help you in deciding which question type to attempt first. Identify keywords and phrases. These help you in locating the answer as well as in confirming the correct answer. When you read a question, pause and understand it properly before you start looking for the answer. This is especially important because the language of the question is usually easier than the language of the passage. Hope this video helped you. Find links to other such videos in the description of this video. That's it for now. All the very best.